Hey, this is Grow with Ralph, and this is our Saturday show.
Boom, 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 boom. Welcome to Showbiz, baby. Welcome to Showbiz, love. Welcome to Showbiz, baby. Gee, you're gonna have, girl, you're gonna have, you'll have lots of fun.
Alrighty then, this is Ralph from Grow with Ralph, and we're doing something a little different today. This is Saturday, so we're not really going to keep things too terribly serious. What I'm going to be doing in this podcast, this is probably the only podcast that we'll do on Saturday for Grow with Ralph. But what I want to do in this podcast is kind of talk about the path forward, what we're going to be doing here with future podcasts. Because right now, I've got my main channel on Spreaker, and I've had this channel, Hermetic Temple Radio, for a long time. I've had it, I think, 3-4 years, something like that. And I had to let it go for about 3 years. We took an extended hiatus for, business reasons, personal reasons. I just had to really focus on what I had to focus on. So we had to set this program, this platform aside for a while. But now I am back. We are picking it up again. And originally what I had planned with the channel on Spreaker, Hermetic Temple Radio, is to be talking about spiritual matters, mostly spiritual matters, tarot, meditation, things like that. And we're still going to be talking about those things on Hermetic Temple Radio. But I've expanded my viewpoint to also include entrepreneurship, home-based business, and ways in which we can be helping people to attain financial independence and security by running their own home-based business. There are a lot of pitfalls in home-based business, and I've stumbled into quite a few of them and survived. And we've been running our own home-based business since 2011. And during that time, we've had to make some difficult choices. Where do I spend my time? Where do I spend my focus? Do I want to do this? Do I want to do that? We've tried some businesses that have done well. We've tried some businesses that just went belly up and just cost us a boatload of money. So what we're going to be doing here, as well as talking about spirituality and tarot and Hermeticism, we're also going to be talking about entrepreneurship and how people can more safely grow their own home-based business. And that's going to be the focus of the podcast Grow with Ralph. What we're going to have here with Hermetic Temple Radio, and I realize this may be somewhat confusing, so later today I'm going to create a website. I think we're going to call it hermetictempleradio.com. It doesn't exist yet, so don't Google it now, but when we do get it up and running, I'll give you the link. And what I want to do with that website is to just have a showcase of our different podcasts and what they will cover and when they will be broadcast. So that way there will be a regular schedule that we will try to keep to, try very, very, very hard to keep to, so that, you can come to expect, a certain program on a certain day. And that will be what I'll be doing later on today, is creating that website. And we'll have all of our podcasts that currently exist on that website, along with the topics and the time that they will be uploaded. So the first podcast, of course, is this one, Grow with Ralph. And this podcast is going to be all about personal growth and entrepreneurship. And with my background, you can tell from the way I started this this program today, this podcast, that I do have a background in spirituality. I was a candidate for the Catholic priesthood back in high school, back in the 1970s, and got kind of disillusioned with the Catholics. So then I switched and went over to the Protestant side of things, was a Protestant minister at a Christian church, Disciples of Christ, for 6 years, senior pastor, and began to think, I really need to broaden my focus. I mean, my love of spirituality tended to be more non-sectarian. And of course, Christianity, Catholicism, rather sectarian in how they're constructed. Normally, you do have some more broad-minded folks in those traditions, but it tends to be, focused on, like it should be, Christianity. And I had I still have a love of world religions. I mean, almost every darned one of them. And particularly very much interested in Buddhism, Hinduism, got into Hermeticism. And I mean, that's really the focus of my spirituality right now, is that it's not a narrow sectarian view, but more of a wide and broad universalist type view. And with that new awakening that is something I've been going through for over the past decade, actually, I've begun to see that a part of spiritual growth has got to be your own personal growth. In Christianity, especially the way I was raised in the Catholic Church and the way it tends to be practiced in a lot of different Christian churches, the feeling is you're going to have riches in heaven. You're going to have treasures in heaven. You may be dirt poor and dying of hunger right now, but hey, brother and sister, if you just believe this gospel, take this gospel, give me what little money you have, you are going to have treasures in heaven. You may be dying in the dirt right now, but yeah, you will have treasures in heaven. And I've seen the fallacy in that. I mean, good spirituality should not be about saving your soul for the next life. And that's the way a lot of people tend to see religion today, is that, okay, I got to do something to save my soul for the next life so that, I'm not burning in hell when I die. But my point of view is that not only should you be concerned about the next life, you should be even more concerned about this life, the life that you're living right here, right now. And if you live your life well in the here and the now, then the life to come will just naturally take care of itself. So I'm no longer about, promising people, okay, you're going to have treasures in heaven. I'm about helping people to have enough to really make a difference in their life right here, right now, in the present moment. And when I was a senior pastor for that Christian church, we spent a lot of time trying to help the poor. I mean, the church that I ran, it wasn't one that was, begging money from the poor. We were trying to help the poor, trying to raise them up out of their poverty. But I didn't know how to do that. I mean, the only thing that I knew how to do was to tap into the church outreach fund and give these people a gift, $25 here, maybe $10 there. Had a homeless guy that knocked on our door. We built up a good relationship with him, gave him a tent, sleeping bag, pots and pans for cooking. We were able to find him a job, and for a while he was able to turn his life around, but poor guy had some serious mental problems, and the voices in his head just told him one day that it was time to hit the road, leave everything behind, and he disappeared and never saw him again. But, we ran a church that was sincerely trying to help people, and we did exactly how to help people besides just giving them gifts. And of course, after a while, I mean, you only have so much material thing, so many material things that you can give. And then when that's all gone, I mean, they're still broke, you're still broke. And the problem that I was trying to solve back, oh, that was about, oh my goodness, 15 years ago or so. And the problem I was trying to solve back then and couldn't, but have figured out now, is how do you help bringing people up, not giving them handouts, but giving them a hand up, not giving them a fish, but teaching them how to fish, because we live in the poorest county in the state of Missouri. It's a beautiful place in the Missouri Ozarks, but it's dirt poor. Most people here are dirt poor. A lot of farmers that traditionally have lived off the land, a lot of farmers that have lost their farms, gone broke. Now they're living off of welfare, and it's just not the most economically viable place to live. And we figured out how to live here using the internet, using an entrepreneurial mindset, using our own home-based business, using online business. And I mean, we figured out how to go from being broke, almost homeless, because, yeah, at one point in time, we were helping other people so much that we practically went homeless ourselves. I was so focused on helping others, I let my own family slide, let my own finances slide, thought, believe that stuff, you're going to have treasures in heaven. And instead, it got me pretty much put out onto the street, almost. We have a nice little cabin, not the best. I mean, it's paid for, but yeah, it's a little piece of land that we had that we kept and held on to, and that became our fallback place. And I mean, we could barely afford to pay the bills at one point in time, could barely afford to keep the lights turned on. But I'm grateful for having that experience because that taught me how we can pull ourselves up with a little bit of help from others, a little bit of guidance, but how we could pull ourselves up out of that state of, impoverishment and be able to earn a full-time income from home. And so that's what I see the podcast Grow with Ralph as being. Sort of the church outreach, if you will, of Hermetic Temple Radio. Not a church outreach where we give out gifts of money and say, oh, you need $25 to keep the electric going? Okay, here's the check, and just write people checks. No, we're not doing that. But what we are doing is that we're giving guidance, giving advice, giving some good information, stuff of value as far as information and guidance to help people raise themselves up out of their current state to a better state, a better financial state for themselves, for their family, and then after they get to the point where they can take care of themselves, they can take care of their family, then they can pay it forward to other people within their community and just keep this this information going, keep this outreach going. So yes, the podcast growwithralph.com. Oh, that's our main website, www.growwithralph.com. The podcast though is going to be about helping people to figure out what kind of home-based business is going to be right for them, how to get started and how to get started safely at whatever economic level you may find yourself at, and how to get your home-based business to grow, and just not giving people handouts, but giving people a hand up by way of advice and good information. And just that's what we're going to be doing here, just good, honest, personal sharing from where we've been, and hopefully that'll help people that may be in similar states or worse state, pull themselves up out of poverty right now. And of course, even if you're not broke, if you're an average person that's concerned about the economy, Average person with a full-time job or at least a part-time job, and you're worried about what the future may bring. You're right to be worried because we have some things pushing forward that will severely disrupt the economy, that will disrupt the market. COVID-19 is just one thing, and that has been a major, major killer for a lot of people. I'm not talking about the virus. I'm talking about an economic killer. Businesses that have been forced to shut down for months, people that have gone broke, businesses that have gone broke, businesses that have gone bankrupt because the government just would not let them, their local governments just wouldn't let them earn a living. And when you tell people to stay home and just do nothing for 6 months, 9 months, and just do nothing so that you don't get sick, what they failed to recognize is that when you run out of money, when you're not able to pay the rent, when you're not able to put food on the table, that can be a killer in and of itself. And these are desperate times for so many people. So if you got a job, congratulations. If you got a full-time job, double congrats. But you may be kind of wondering about what the future may bring, and that's where I see Grow with Ralph as being a resource for people like you as well, is that you may want to get pretty serious about getting your own home-based business going while you still have a steady income. Don't get panicked. Don't be fearful and just jump into something right away. But take your time, find something that works for you, and take the time that you need to build the business up right. Because when it comes to home-based business, sometimes people are fortunate, they get lucky, they find a business idea that starts to pay the bills within a few months. And my wife and I just thank our spirit guides for being with us during those dark times. But yeah, we were among the lucky ones that we were able to come across a home-based business idea that actually started paying the bills within a few months. But other people, it may take a year, it may take 2 years. There are some people in this space, like Robert Kiyosaki, a great entrepreneur that I love to listen to, and Patrick Bet-David, another entrepreneur that I love to listen to. Robert Kiyosaki says, if you're starting your own business, give it at least 5 years. Start out with a 5-year plan. Have a long-term commitment. Don't think that you're going to become rich overnight. Don't think you're going to be like a 1-month wonder or a 3-month wonder. It might work out for you that way, but be willing to stick with it for 5 years and have a plan for being able to stick with it for 5 years. Patrick Bet-David, he's a lot more conservative in that question. He says, give it a 10-year plan, 10-year long-term commitment, because not everybody that gets into business succeeds right off the bat. Not everybody that gets into their own business succeeds at all. And the reason a lot of people fail is that I think they jump into it thinking that this is going to be a get-rich-quick scheme, that they're going to do well within, a few months. I've seen some people out there that say if you're not making 6 figures in 6 months, you're not doing something right. And that kind of gives people the impression that, hey, I'm going to knock this thing out of the park, and I'm going to be rich within 6 months. Well, that's not necessarily true, folks. Some people will attain that dream, that goal, but I think the vast majority of people are going to struggle with it for a few years, and that's pretty common. And some people will struggle with it and fail because they just don't have that long-term commitment. Maybe they've overextended themselves financially. They got into a business that's going to cost them, hundreds of dollars a month, and they don't see a profit. And after a few months of operating like that, losing more money than you're gaining, then naturally you're going to go broke. And so you have to have a good business plan, have a plan that you can stick with for a good 5 years, I would say, 10 years if you want to be super conservative. Uh, and if you make it within a few months, great. That's great. We were able to do that. And by make it, I mean being able to stay home, pay the bills, and have a little bit left over to put in the bank. Not talking about being super rich or, six figures. I'm talking about just being able to earn a full-time income from home. And I mean, that is my focus. But results in this are not typical. Some folks will find success soon, other folks will find success later on down the line, and other folks will just throw in the towel and not find success at all. And what we're going to be doing with the Grow with Ralph podcast is just giving some good, honest, accurate information to help average people get started in their own home-based business without breaking the bank. So that's what Grow with Ralph podcast is going to be all about. Now, got another podcast that I've already done the first episode of, and Grow with Ralph. Okay, I haven't finished up with that one yet. The Grow with Ralph podcast will be something that we will do from Monday to Friday going forward. So yeah, 5 days a week we'll be talking about entrepreneurship, personal growth, and home-based business. And then on Saturday, we'll have another podcast called the Tarot by Ralph podcast. Currently, this is only on Spreaker. I am working, once we get a couple more episodes recorded, I'll go ahead and get it up on Spotify and iTunes and see if we can get it up on iHeart and a few other outlets out there. But what the Tarot by Ralph podcast is going to be about is, again, personal growth, Hermeticism, self-improvement, and personal growth and self-improvement using the tarot. How can I use tarot to help myself grow, both personally, emotionally, and just improve my situation in life? I don't really approach tarot from the position of love and relationships. My wife does that in Spanish. She does very well. She's really the backbone of one of our major home-based businesses that has done extremely well over the past several years. But we're trying to transition away from that because of, let's just say ministerial burnout. So when you're dealing with people at their worst, and you've been doing that day in, day out for 6, 7, 8 years, it wears on you. I felt that as a minister when I was a minister for 6 years in a brick and mortar church. And rarely do people come to you saying, "Oh, I'm just so happy. I don't know what to do with myself." Usually people come to you at their worst, and they're wanting reassurance, they're wanting guidance, they're wanting to know, to be able to see a path forward. They want reassurance that things are going to be better somewhere down the line. And when you're dealing with people at their worst, day in, day out, it can burn you out. But what I'm going to focus on with the Tarot by Ralph podcast is talking about, how we tarot reading, tarot consultation, tarot for spiritual growth, tarot for personal growth, and just teaching you how you can become your own tarot advisor, essentially. How you can, get away from calling folks on the psychic hotlines and whatnot, and be able to use the cards yourself to get some just some good basic guidance, and focus on becoming more self-aware and improving your situation in life. So that will be a podcast that we will do on Saturday. I may once in a while throw in an extra episode, but I'm just kind of focusing on what we can commit to. So Saturday will be the time that we will definitely be doing a podcast for the Tarot by Ralph podcast. And then maybe once or twice during the week we might do an extra bonus episode. Now, the next podcast that we have, it's going to be called The Temple Flame. This is going to be more of our spiritual approach to life. We're going to be talking about non-sectarian spirituality, and we're going to be focused on self-awareness, self-improvement, personal growth, and we're going to be doing it from more of a non-sectarian point of view, just focusing on basic spiritual principles that people can use to make a difference in their lives right here, right now. I mean, I love that thing about you'll have treasures in heaven. And there is a truth to that. Yes, there is definitely a truth to that. But if you neglect your life in the here and now, I don't think you're really going to be getting those treasures in heaven. You have to focus on the whole enchilada, the big picture. Focus on your life here and now. How can you live a good, decent life in the present and have enough to be able to take care of yourself, have enough to be able to take care of your family, have enough to be able to take care of folks in your general neighborhood, in your community, and be able to have the wisdom, the resources, the drive to be able to leave the world a better place after you leave this life and go into the hereafter. So yeah, the Temple Flame, we're going to be focusing on non-sectarian spirituality, focusing on the present moment, the here and now, how to improve your life. And I've got an interest in a lot of different things. I've been, of course, a candidate for the Catholic priesthood. I've been a Christian minister. I've done some studies in the Kabbalah, however you want to pronounce that, banana, and Buddhism, Hinduism. I've just really, Judaism, I've just really been all over the place because that's been one of my interests from very early childhood, is just world religions. And so in that quest over the last 50 plus years, I've picked up a few nuggets of wisdom from various sources, and in the Temple Flame, we try to pull it all in together and just give people some practical spiritual guidance for living a better life in the here and now. And, that's what that podcast is going to be all about. And we will do the Temple Flame podcast on Sunday. That'll be like our Sunday worship service or Sunday practice, spiritual practice service. So there you have it. That's what we have going forward with Hermetic Temple Radio, the main channel, the podcast, Grow with Ralph, the Tarot by Ralph podcast, and the Temple Flame. And we've set out a schedule. I've gotten my feet wet now, once again, in podcasting. And, we will be keeping to that schedule. So that's all for now. Let's do a little musical break. I think we've had enough seriousness. The intro that I chose for today was Welcome to Showbiz Baby, and that was a little song by the Hollywood Drunks. I found them on Magnatune, a nice outlet there that offers royalty-free music. And I've got the same group now, the Hollywood Drunks, with another song called I'm at That Age, or actually it's called That Age. So we'll play this song, have a little musical break, and then come back to conclude our program.
I'm at that age where people I know suddenly die for no reason at all. I'm at that age where people I know suddenly stop returning my calls. I'm at that age where people I know are on to their second wife and third dog. I'm at that age where people I know seem to have nowhere else to fall. But that's okay, we'll be fine, we're just getting better. But that's alright, we're still cool. past. I'm at that age where people I know seem to have trouble remembering names. I'm at that age where people I know tell those stories that all sound the same. I'm at that age where people I know seem to have nowhere else to hide. I'm at that age where people I know are trying to get on with their lives, but that's okay, we'll be fine, we're just getting better, but that's alright, we're still cool, we're just getting better, on my way to follow, there's nothing else to borrow, wherever we can go to, as long as we can last. Tomorrow's just the past. Parking enforcement, your work so important for the world. Parking enforcement, your work so important for the world. Parking enforcement, your work so important for the world. Parking enforcement, your work so important. Well, just a minute more waiting, no more waiting. Parking enforcement, your work so important. Well, just a minute more waiting,
All right, now we're going to be on to our second topic of the day, and this is going to be how to handle conflict, and we're going to do kind of an abbreviated form of that question, and focus on family conflict for today. We'll just let that be sufficient. Handling family conflicts in your home-based business. When I first wanted to get my first home-based business started, the first time in my life I wanted to become an entrepreneur. I was going to college. I would think I was a little over 18 years of age, and the college that I went to had what they called an entrepreneurial, what do they call it? Entrepreneurial seminar. It's not the real name, but something similar to that. It's been a few years, but yeah, Entrepreneurship Council. And anyway, what they had is that they had folks come in talking about entrepreneurship, as speaking at the college and pitching their programs. And there was this one guy that pitched a program that I thought sounded pretty darn good, and I got interested in it. And when I was away at college, I did I didn't do all the research. That's what I did wrong right there. I didn't do all my research. But I did. I looked at the company hard enough to become interested in it, and got all excited. And my classmates were thinking, "Yeah, this looks like a pretty good idea, Ralph." And so got into it. Filled out the paperwork. I was able to join for free, no membership fee. It was essentially selling. And I think there was a deposit I had to put down for my sales kit, but it was selling waterless cookware. Waterless cookware, table sets, china, some nice crystal glasses and flatware. And it was all about dinnerware and cookware. And I think I did put down a little bit of money, a little bit of a deposit to get my sales kit. And then after that, I mean, there was no monthly fee to get involved in it. And I thought, this sounded like a pretty good deal. So anyway, I got home from college, and the company had mailed out a letter to my family, saying, congratulations, your son has joined, Royal Prestige, and, we are just so happy to have him. We hope that you will support him in his endeavor. And they talked a little bit about the company. And my dad got that letter before I got home from college, and he hit the roof. I mean, he thought that this was, shall we say in Spanish, a load of caca. I try not to cuss on the radio. If I do, we're going to be doing it in Spanish or French or, gibberish, one of my other native tongues. But yeah, my dad really hit the roof. He was dead set against it. My mother was dead set against it. And I mean, they just did the exact opposite of what the company was hoping that they would do. And I mean, I got home and summer vacation, I was supposed to be, putting that time into building up, my own business with, making appointments, going out, talking to people, doing demonstrations, whatnot. And instead, I was still living at home at that time during the summer, and it was just a toxic mess for me. I got absolutely no support from my immediate family. Dad was dead set against it. He was very forceful in his objection. My mom was more passive aggressive in her approach. She would just walk around the house and say, "Oh, honey, so sorry that you're not going to make any money this summer when that crap that you're into now." And after a few weeks of that, I folded. And I just gave up. I threw in the towel. And looking back, I mean, I can blame my parents for that, but in reality, I have to own that. I walked into a situation not very well armed with the facts, not really knowing that much about the company, so that when I did get conflict, family conflict that was very, very forcefully telling me, don't go into this. I mean, they weren't doing it to be mean. They were doing it out of love. That's what they thought. They were trying to save me from myself. They were trying to save me from this company that they thought was just, a load of caca. It was they thought entrepreneurship was just criminal activity, and that this business just had to be terrible, had to be bad. And so they were trying to save me out of the goodness of their heart from making a huge mistake. And I folded. And in reality, what did they save me from? They saved me from a company that was doing well at that time, and if I had done my complete research back then, I would have known that. And they saved me from a company that is still doing very well today after 40-some years. And actually, they have a longer history than that. I think they've been in business since the 1950s. They really exploded their business in the 60s, and they're still doing well today. But you see, back then when I entered into that between my mom and dad and myself, me wanting to become an entrepreneur and they being dead set against it, I did not have the facts. And I mean, that would be the one thing that I would recommend. People may think that, if they find a good company, they find a good program, they can get into it, their family will support them, your wife, your husband will support you. And in reality, I think most of the entrepreneurs that I have talked with, that I have listened to, have shared with me that, you're not alone. My family did not support me either. My family was dead set against this. I think most entrepreneurs, when you get started trying to become an entrepreneur and trying to get your online business going, home-based business going, whatever, I think most of the time you will meet resistance from your family because there's just so many scams out there that they think everything is a scam. And they're trying to save you from throwing your time, money, and energy away into something that they think is a scam. And unfortunately, yeah, there are so many scams out there, and there is some validity to that criticism. So if you want to get started as an entrepreneur and you want to be able to handle this conflict, because I see conflict as being inevitable. I mean, back when I was 18, I wanted to avoid conflict. I wanted to be the peacemaker, the Jesus of the Sermon on the Mount, turn the other cheek, nonviolent resistance, all that stuff. And I did not arm myself with the facts. I just wanted to avoid conflict, and as a result, I did not grow. My growth was stagnated for a very, very long period of time. And if you want to get started in your own business, if you want to get started as an entrepreneur, you've got to do a good job of handling conflict, because conflict will inevitably arise. And the best way that I know to handle that is just make sure you've got all the facts. Make sure you've done your research. Don't just trust somebody because they give a great presentation, or they sound good on radio, or they make some good videos. Don't just trust any yahoo on the internet that's got a program that they wholeheartedly recommend. Don't trust, verify, do your own research, arm yourself with the facts. If people say, "Oh, this is a Ponzi scheme," well, make sure you know what a Ponzi scheme is. A lot of people don't know what a Ponzi scheme is. They'll say that this is a Ponzi scheme or that's a Ponzi scheme, but they don't really know what a Ponzi scheme is. A Ponzi scheme is a program or a situation in which money changes hands, but there is no definite product. There's no product. There's no real service. It's just, you give me $20, and then later on I'll give you $30, and then this guy's going to give me $40, and then I'll give you $50, and it's just a situation where there is no product. It's just money changes hands, and usually these schemes collapse within 6 months to 3 years. And I saw one Ponzi scheme that it went bankrupt after 10 days and bilked a lot of people out of Bitcoin. So yeah, there are definite scams out there. So that's why, first of all, before you jump into anything, don't jump into what you think is going to be a pool of fresh water and find out it's blazing fire instead. Because you've got to know, you've got to do your own research. If you're getting a lot of flack from your family saying, okay, this is bad, this is a Ponzi scheme, this is a scam, they might be right. Just because you think they're wrong does not make you right. Do your research. Don't just trust somebody on the internet, and don't blindly trust your family either. Do your own research, see things for yourself, and then make your own decision. And I would say usually if you are armed with the facts, if you're able to talk to people after they've calmed down a little bit. I mean, my father was pretty darned hot when he talked me out of my first attempt to become an entrepreneur. But then later in life, after I'd had a little bit more life experience, after I had grown up more, and after my dad had seen me grow up more, I was able to talk to him about, my getting into a home-based business and what we wanted to do and what we were doing. And that time around, I was armed with the facts, and he realized that this wasn't some kid that didn't know anything throwing his life away on an MLM scam. This was an adult who had done his research, who knew what he was getting into, and it was at that point in time I began getting a little bit of lukewarm support. And then after he saw that we were beginning to make money, we were becoming successful, then he sat back and said, you know what, that's my kid. That's my boy. He can do anything he sets his mind to. Just a total 180. And it took 40 years for me to make that change. My change in my family situation. First of all, though, I had to make that change in myself and just start doing the research, arming myself with the facts, being able to see what I was getting into, and then making some definite positive steps towards building my business. And so, yeah, conflict will arise, and conflict is not always a bad thing. It's unpleasant. It can seem unpleasant. But, conflict is inevitable, and if you know how to work with it, you know how to grow with it, you can actually use conflict like Miracle-Gro. And instead of holding you back, if you know how to handle conflict well, it can propel you forward. But a lot of people are not of that mindset. They tend to be more passive, more timid. They give up too easily. They give in too easily. And they just don't know how to manage conflict that well. If you're the kind of person that likes to avoid conflict rather than deal with conflict, you're probably not going to do well in home-based business. But if you know how to handle conflict well, then you will do better in home-based business, because many, many different areas of conflict in handling your own business, and family is just one of them. If you think handling your mom or your dad or your wife or your husband is terrible, just wait till you get a few dissatisfied customers either on the phone or through the email telling you you're a complete idiot, a fraud, a fake, a phony, and is just wanting to vent on you because, they think you're terrible because they haven't done their own research and they're blaming everything on you. Those things happen. And, it's inevitable. You will have to deal with it. In home-based business, in entrepreneurship, yeah, you will have some people that love you. You will also have a lot of haters. And the better you handle that, the better you will be, the better you will become. So try to grow in handling conflict. Don't be one that wants to avoid conflict. And don't just lash out either. If you're dealing with people that happen to be hot-headed and irrational, don't let things turn into just a shouting and screaming match. Let them vent, let them calm down, and then when they're ready to listen, if you have armed yourself with the facts, then present the facts to them when they're able and ready to listen. And give it time. Give it time. It doesn't necessarily have to take 40 years. I think if I had been more resolute in my decision to become an entrepreneur back in the 1980s, I probably could have turned things around within 6 months, maybe sooner, because, it turns out that the company I wanted to get into was a darn good company, solid. It's still there today, still doing well. So, if I had known that fact, if I had known that, this was a company with a very good track record and with good products, great business plan, and that I had a plan for being able to move forward and make this business profitable, then I think I could have gotten support if I had been willing to say, okay, I'm going to work a part-time job to make money during the summer. but I'm also going to work this entrepreneurial enterprise as a part-time job too. If I had gone to my parents that way, then I think I would have gotten a heck of a lot more support. And I think I could have eventually brought them over to my way of thinking and probably could have turned my life around at a much, much earlier age. But I wanted to avoid conflict. I did my best to avoid conflict and spent quite a few years just stagnated. And that's my message here to you today. Uh, Learn how to handle conflict, and the best way to learn how to handle conflict is just practice. You know, arm yourself with the facts, talk to people, talk rationally to people. Don't yell and scream at them. Don't give them the what I like to call the middle finger of death. You know, that flipping them the bird. But be able to talk rationally, reasonably, and calm them down, and just present your case. And then after all that, if you're still finding yourself in a situation where, your family is just not going to support you, well, then you may have to make a decision. Do I want to stay living under this roof where I have to abide by the rules of, somebody else? Or do I have the capability to strike out on my own? And, I mean, that can be when you're dealing with your parents, of course, eventually you do have to leave them behind. So, I mean, that's really no biggie. As long as you're of legal age and you've got the ability to support yourself, you're making your own money, you're paying your own bills, you should be out of the house. You shouldn't be living in your mother's basement because it's cheap rent. Not if, she or your dad is controlling your life and thinking they have, the right to control your life. No, that's not healthy. But when you're dealing with a wife, dealing with a husband, and they're dead set against your home-based business plans, then it becomes a lot more problematic. And then you may have to very, very well make that decision. Do I give up, give in, or do I get out? And I mean, it's an unpleasant situation I have not had to deal with. Fortunately, my wife backs me in our home-based business. She's one of the main pillars of our home-based business. I mean, she's been a pillar of strength to me during the dark times, during the hard times. We work together in our home-based business, and without her, I would not have been able to have turned things around in my life like we have. It's been our family business. But other folks that want to get into home-based business and you don't have a spouse that is supportive, I'm not saying leave that spouse, but I am saying you're going to have to do some work. You're going to have to present your case to them. And, I mean, if they're a good, loving spouse, eventually they will come around. But, if it's a dominating type of a situation where they want to run your life for you, where they feel like they own you, then that's not a healthy situation either. And I mean, you just have to make your own choices in life, make your own decisions. Do I deal with the conflict? Do I deal well with the conflict? Do I cry and run away from conflict? Or do I stand my ground in this conflict? And from my perspective, again, as long as you're armed with the facts, you're talking with people, dealing with people out of love, rather than out of anger, rather than out of hurt, rather than out of jealousy or pettiness, then eventually I think you're going to be able to turn them around. If they love you, you love them, there is mutual respect in the relationship, then I think you can turn things around. But if that mutual love, mutual respect does not exist, then that's just an unhealthy relationship to be in, and you've got to make your choice. Are you going to be putting up with that, or are you going to be saying goodbye? And I don't mean like, you give me my way or I'm going to leave. Be adult about it. Be reasonable about it. When you can start talking with people out of love and respect and fairness, then I think you can you can do a lot better job convincing people than you can do otherwise. But again, I mean, you have the power to influence the people around you, but you do not have the power to control the people around you and make them, force them to, come to your point of view. No, we all have basic human freedom, free will, and some of us use it well, some of us use it very poorly. So again, that's just one of the areas of conflict. And we'll talk more about this in future broadcasts because there's a lot of other areas of conflict that arise. Conflict with, your parents, your spouse, conflict with employees you may bring into the business, definitely conflict with customers, conflict with maybe equipment that you use within your industry when stuff just doesn't work like it should, when stuff hits the fan and you can't work because the internet is down or the car is broken or something comes up, then yeah, you have to be able to deal with the conflict of dealing with that situation, getting things fixed, getting things repaired, getting back online, getting back on the road. And then you also have to deal with the conflict of letting customers know that, hey, I know we had this appointment today. I can't keep it because of this. Can we please reschedule for another date, another time? And just apologize profusely. And again, I think 8 times out of 10, most people will be very reasonable and say, yeah, sure, I understand. Yeah, we'll do that. But then you'll also have a few people that will just give you a lot of flack, a lot of hate, a lot of conflict. So those things happen. How do you handle conflict? We'll be talking about that next. We'll get into that Monday. But for now, that's it. Thanks for dropping by. This is Ralph signing out. And if you want to check us out online, I am going to be working on that new website specifically for Hermetic Temple Radio on Spreaker. And if you want to find the website for this podcast for my main home-based business, then you can find me at www.growwithralph.com. That's www.growwithralph.com. Thanks for dropping by. We'll catch you all on Monday.